This video is sponsored by Phoenix Pharos Cards. If you need supplies of singles or splits for Cardfight Vanguard, especially the ones in the video, do check out Phoenix Pharos Cards today, and as a bonus, use the promo code METANERD to get an amazing 5% discount. And with that being said, let's get on with the video. Greetings YouTube, welcome back to the MetaNerd channel. I am Marcus, bringing you another video for Cardfight Vanguard Willdress. In this video, we'll be going through the generic cards that was introduced for DBT13, which is quite a number of them, to be honest. And I think all these generic cards could play a role in terms of how the future card design as well as meta changes. We will be covering like 3 types of generic cards which all nation has, with the exception of Lyrical Monastro, because they are of their own booster set. Without further ado, let's take a look at what the generic cards for each of the 5 nation has for DBT13. First and foremost are the Dragontree stuff, where all of them are grade 3, and most of them do have like almost a similar skill. All 5 of them do share the following skill, which is continuous. This card cannot be ridden and cannot be normal call to rearguard circle without any Dragontree marker. Second skill, continuous rearguard circle. During your turn, this unit gets 2k power for each Dragontree marker on your rearguard circle. Third skill, continuous rearguard circle. During your turn, this unit gets 2k power for a requirement that is kinda nation specific, because not every card are the same. They are basically being locked to whatever requirement that their specific nation requires. So for this nation specific requirement that you need in order to get the 2k is basically as follows. For Dragon Empire, this unit will be getting 2k power for each and every opponent's open rearguard circle, which kind of plays well in terms of the theme of Dragon Empire, which is to retire the opponent's stuff. For Dark States is pretty much straightforward. For every 3 cards in your soul, you get a 2k power, which could go up really high, depends on how much soul you have. For Cater Sanctuary is just basically for every rearguard, which will basically translate into a 10k power. Stoicheia is basically for every 5 cards in the drop zone, which is quite nice, and I think it's slightly lesser power than the Dark States one, because Dark States is counting every 3 cards as opposed to Stoicheia, which is counting every 5 cards. For Brandgate, of course, it's basically counting each set order in the auto zone, and then you unlock the 2k power. So there's really nothing much to talk of in terms of this generic card that we have. All you need to know that these cards are basically 15k base that could give a lot of power should, of course, the requirement is achieved, or depends on how many times you fulfill that requirement, which will then give a 2k power. Of course, if you haven't put this together, all of these grade 3s are basically support for Gila. It is kind of the only deck that generate a lot of Dragontree markers to the field, which in turn does stacks a whole lot of power already. On top of these cards being able to get 2k power for each Dragontree marker, as well as another 2k power for their additional nation specific skill, is going to be a really disgusting attacker. This grade 3 generic attacker is going to be at 30k power at the minimum. Of course, depends on how many times you fulfill the requirement, taking into account that if you only have 5 Dragontree marker as well as the power boost, they themselves are 15k base. Gaining 10k from 5 Dragontree marker as well as their own skill is just disgusting. On top of that, this 30k power minimum is not taking into account the power boost by the Dragontree marker, and as you all know, Gila is able to stack Dragontree marker onto one rearguard circle, so it's going to go higher than 30k. I guarantee you that. But of course, it still depends on the nation specific requirement for you to get the power boost. It's not going to be a lot, but still it might make a big impact. Now, since these cards are all grade 3s, you are able to kind of superior call them from the deck or the drop onto the rearguard circle by using Forbiddle Surrogate. I mean, is it really that worth it to call out a big meter attacker? Maybe. I'm not too sure because of how complex Gila is, but for the average deck that you are able to generate Dragontree marker, not necessarily only the mass deck, because the regular deck is able to kind of generate Dragontree marker from using the grade 2 and grade 1 Dragontree. That skill does not really restrict into needing your Vanguard to be a mass or Hydrogurm unit, so it's a really solid option to consider them putting into your deck if, of course, it plays well with the overall strategy of your deck. Nothing really much to talk about. It's not really a complex unit. It just allows for one option for you to build the deck. It's very, very nice, but at the same time does not really produce a lot of value in terms of utility. He's just being there as a big ass attacker. That's all. That's the first type of the generic cards that we get for DBT13, and I think we should be able to see like 1 or 2 piece them being shoved into Gila. I'm not too sure about the other decks. I don't think think the other decks need this kind of stuff. But then again, I wouldn't be surprised if the other decks actually splash like 1 or 2 piece thanks to Forbido Surrogate. Next up, of course, we have the generic Blitz order. All of the 5 major nations that we have currently in DBT13 has this one Blitz order. They, of course, do have their nation-specific restriction. Basically just means that you need to fulfill certain amount of the restriction. Only then you're able to play the Blitz order. If you're able to kind of cancel out the restriction, what you have here is basically choose one of your units being attacked and it gets 15k power until the end of that battle. If your opponent's Vanguard was placed by a card's ability this turn, it gets 30k power instead of 15k power. So as for the restriction for Dragon Empire, it's basically just your damage will need to be at 3 or more, and then you are able to kind of get a 15k to 30k shield value. It's not bad, it's really good. It's kind of easy too, because you only need to wait until 3 damage, that's all. For Dark State, you need to have 5 or more soul, which is kind of easy, depends on what deck you are, because not every single deck within Dark States is able to achieve 5 soul very consistently. There are decks within Dark States that soul blast, so just be careful in terms of whether or not you're able to use this card. For Cater Sanctuary, you just need to have 3 or more rear guards. Kinda not really the best one, because we are kind of at like a board control meta, so the opponent can just retire and leave you at 2 rear guards, and the Blitz order is basically dead. For Stoicheia is quite similar to Cater Sanctuary. You will need to have 2 or more grade 1 or less rear guard. The major difference between Stoicheia and Cater Sanctuary is that Stoicheia has tokens, and we do have like a lot of token generation units, so Stoicheia's Blitz order might be easier to achieve than the Cater Sanctuary one, because as mentioned before, tokens, they're just like cockroaches, you can't really get rid of them effectively. For Brangit, it's the easiest among all 5 nations. You just need to have a set order and you're able to play the Blitz order. It's just very simple. Out of the 5 nations, like I said, Brangit is the easiest to achieve. It's not game changing by any means, but it is kind of like an early attempt from Bushiroad to kind of rectify the defensive issue that we have currently, because as Overdress is heading currently, we are heading towards like a very faster pace of game where you need to do stuff like every single turn. Otherwise, you're just gonna fall behind in terms of damage as well as just combos, I would say. As for this Blitz order, they are providing a 15k to a 30k shield, depends on if the opponent's Vanguard is placed by a card's ability this turn. I mean, of course, there are only a few decks out there that effectively does this. The prime example of this Blitz order getting a 30k shield is of course going to be Youthberg because of the Willdress mechanic. Some other decks that does actually place on top of their Vanguard by a card's ability is going to be Michu from Lyrical Monastro. Almost all of the mass deck as well as Griffogila does place their Vanguard by a card's ability. So it's not to say that this card is basically useless. There are a lot of matchups that this Blitz order could take advantage of, like what I said previously. With how Blitz order is handled currently, being once per turn is not going to help this card all too much. And one other problem is that you will need to sacrifice some of your key pieces for the Blitz order. In that sense, most likely you will not be running this card unless you are able to squeeze in like 1 or 2 piece of this Blitz order without actually taking away the consistency of your whole deck. The restriction to play all of this Blitz order is pretty much attainable. Like I said, the easiest one is of course going to be Brangit. You just need to have a set order and you're basically good to go. Once again, all of this card is able to counter Griffogila, the Stride decks, Youthberg, Avantgarde, etc. You have a lot of stuff that is basically counterable by this Blitz order, but still it depends on how the meta is. If the meta does not have all of this deck, there's literally no point to even consider running this Blitz order. But still, having this as an option to kind of counter the meta is, I think, a really good option to consider if, of course, you find yourself really lacking in terms of the defensive side. But then, of course, there's really not too much value at the moment to run all of this yet. Unless there's a major change in terms of how Blitz mechanic work, whether to increase the usage of Blitz mechanic to 2 times per turn or just turn the whole Blitz order to like a G Guardian mechanic is also viable. But still, at this point, since we are only restricting to once per turn in terms of Blitz order, there's really not much value at the moment yet. But yeah, it's a very nice card. It's just maybe not the right moment to being introduced. If of course Bushiroad is planning to change how Blitz order work, then maybe this can be good, but at the moment it's not really that good. Last but not least are the generic grade 3 dragons, which is quite meta defining. Not all of them are equal because The Dark States one in particular is the most powerful out of the 5 that we have currently. This also kind of spoiled us into thinking that Bushiroad will be giving each and every nation a strike deck. I mean, at the moment we have 4 confirmed strike decks: the Chronojet, Messiah, Shiranui, and Luar. So we still don't have confirmation on if Stoichia is gonna get a strike deck set, but it looks like it will be because of this Grade 3 dragons. So what this Grade 3 dragon basically does is auto, when this unit is placed on Rearguard Circle or put on Guardian Circle, choose up to 1 Grade 4 card from your hand and reveal it. If you reveal a card or your Vanguard is Grade 4, perform one of the following according to the circle this unit is on. So for the Rearguard Circle is basically nation specific. For on the Guardian Circle, this unit is a 15k shield until the end of the battle. For the second skill is basically specific towards if you ride a Grade 3 from the right deck or you just pay the cost for strike. They are Grade 3 after all. Auto, when this unit is discarded from hand while riding a Grade 3 from the right deck or paying the cost for strike, draw a card. So for the nation specific skill, on Rearguard Circle skill is as follows. For Dragon Empire, you are able to choose one of your opponent's Rearguard and retire it, and this unit gets 5k power until the end of turn. Not the most game breaking skill, but then again, having the option to kind of retire an opponent's Rearguard as well as gain a 5k for free is not too bad, I would say. For Dark States, the most powerful one, cost, Counterblast 1, draw a card, choose 2 cards from your drop and put them into the soul. For 1 Counterblast, you're able to draw 1 as well as choose 2 cards from the drop and put them into the soul. Is just really disgusting, especially for Drajul. Since Drajul does not really have like a lot of soul charging mechanic anymore because of how Ignis is working, this card just became like the most important card for Drajul. But of course, it's not only specifically for Drajul. Other decks within Dark States is able to take advantage of this card. For Cater Sanctuary, you're able to choose 2 of your Rearguards and they get boost until the end of turn. This is kind of like a very iffy skill because it's not providing a lot other than, you know, if you are playing this card inside a Bastion deck, then maybe it has a lot of value because this guy is a Grade 3 and your board is basically just Grade 3s overall. You're able to choose 2 of those Grade 3 Rearguards and just give them boost is super nice. But if we look past Bastion, the other Cater Sanctuary right line does not really take a lot of value out of this card. Yeah, not really the best one, but still it is an option. If of course you are planning to like run a lot of non-Grade 1 cards. For Stoichia, cost Soul Blast 1, choose a Grade 2 or greater card with a different card name from this unit from the drop and put it into your hand. It's basically recycling your Grade 2 unit that you might want to call from the drop zone, or you can choose a normal order card which you then play it. I mean, the orders within Stoichia is just really good, and due to the nature on how Stoichia plays, I think it's a very nice skill to get back some of the more important units that got retired or got attacked from the opponent. It's a very nice card, but then of course it is restricting to Grade 2 and above, so yeah, not that great in terms of that because there are some Grade 1 units that is quite important for Stoichia. For Brandgate, you are able to soul charge 1 and this unit gets 10k power until the end of turn. I mean, at the moment I think Brandgate does use a lot of soul without a lot of soul charging, and hence some of their right lines within Brandgate are forced to play the Prison, which does soul charge 3, or you know, a much more expensive option is going to be the Grade 1 Mikani. This does gives you 1 soul charge as well as a 10k power to boot. It's very nice, especially for Messiah. It's not bad. So as an overall, these Grade 3s are really good if you have of course Grade 4 in your hand or you have a Grade 4 Vanguard, which in a sense does support both the Stride decks as well as the current Grade 4 decks that we have in the whole Cardfight Vanguard Willdress. Even for decks that do not have Grade 4s or Stride inside their deck, they are able to kind of draw back the card that is being discarded when you want to ride a Grade 3 from the right deck, and thus of course fish out for more pieces is just very nice. Since all of these cards are Grade 3, once again Forbiddle Surrogate is able to provide insane amount of value because not only are you able to get a Grade 4 from the deck, you're able to get one of these Grade 3s from your deck or drop to the Rearguard Circle. It's just really disgusting in terms of value. And that is all for this video. Do let me know down in the comment section of what you think of all of these generic cards. I think they might just change how we're gonna build decks in the future, but then again, at the moment they are not really that impactful because we do not yet know what future brings. Do like and subscribe if you like this video, and of course ring the bell notification icon so that you don't miss a video I upload. With that being said, I'll see you all on the field.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, go.